This moment is a divine interruption. And if you sense something stirring in your spirit right now, it is because God has already begun to speak to you. There are seasons when God whispers, and there are moments when God shakes the soul awake. And this is one of those moments. This Christmas will not pass like the others. This is not another year to survive, not another season to endure, not another cycle of waiting with tired hope. This is a turning point, a holy reversal, a sudden shift prepared by God for those who have been hidden, overlooked, misunderstood, and refined in silence. You may not look like what you have been through, but God knows the weight you have carried. You have walked through pressure that would have broken others, yet something in you refused to collapse. That was not luck. That was not coincidence. That was the hand of God preserving you for a moment like this. God does not waste suffering, and God does not allow endurance without intention. Everything you survived was shaping your capacity to receive what is coming. You were not delayed. You were being developed. You were not forgotten. You being fortified. You were not rejected. You being redirected by God's wisdom, not human understanding. There are chosen ones listening to these words who have felt out of place their entire lives. You tried to fit into environments that never fully received you. You sensed that your spirit carried something different, something heavier, something deeper. You are often alone even in crowds, often quiet when others spoke loudly, often observant when others were distracted. That is because God set you apart long before you understood it. Separation is not punishment. Separation is preparation. God isolates before God elevates. God hides before God reveals. God trains in private before God announces in public. This Christmas will shock you. Not because of what you see with your eyes, but because of what God will suddenly do beyond your expectations. The shock will not be noise, it will be precision. It will be the exact answer to prayers you whispered when no one was listening. It will be the sudden opening of doors you stopped knocking on because disappointment taught you restraint. God is not bound by your timeline or your logic. God moves when the heart is ready, not when the calendar says it makes sense. Some of you have been faithful in obscurity. You showed up when no one applauded. You remained honest when dishonesty seemed rewarded. You chose integrity when shortcuts promised faster results. You honored God when it cost you relationships, opportunities, and comfort. Heaven recorded every unseen act. Heaven measured every tear you wiped away in silence. Heaven counted every moment you chose trust over bitterness, and now the season of repayment has arrived. God does not forget faithfulness. God responds to it with overwhelming precision. You must understand this clearly, the surprise God has prepared is not random. It is not accidental. It is not borrowed from someone else's destiny. It has your name written on it. It fits your calling. It matches your capacity. It aligns with the work God has done in your inner life. That is why others cannot step into it. That is why it waited for you. That is why it arrives now. God does not release blessings prematurely. God releases them when they will not destroy you. There were times you asked God why the wait was so long, why progress seemed slow, why doors closed without explanation. God was protecting you from receiving too early what required maturity to sustain. Some blessings, if given before character is ready, become burdens instead of gifts. God loves you too much to promote you before you are rooted. So God allowed the waiting. God allowed the stretching. God allowed the pruning. And now the fruit is ready. This Christmas is not about tradition. It is about transition. It is not about routine. It is about revelation. God is shifting identities, restoring confidence, and rewriting narratives. What others labeled you as is being erased. What failure tried to define is being replaced. What fear tried to silence is being amplified. God is about to shock you with how quickly things can change when divine timing meets prepared faith. Do not underestimate suddenness. God specializes in moments that defy explanation. One conversation, one decision, one unexpected opportunity, one divine alignment. God does more in a moment than years of human effort can accomplish. And when it happens, people will say you are lucky, but you will know it was alignment. People will say it happened overnight, but you will know it was built over years of faithfulness. You may feel tired right now, and that does not disqualify you. Exhaustion does not mean weakness. It means you have been carrying weight. Even the strongest grow weary. God does not ask you to be perfect. God asks you to remain present. Bring your tired faith, your wounded hope, your questions, your fragile trust. God is not intimidated by honesty. God responds to surrender. And surrender is not giving up. It is handing control to the one who sees what you cannot. This is a word for those who almost quit. For those who said, I can't do this anymore, but still woke up and tried again. For those who lost something precious and wondered if joy would ever return. For those who obeyed God even when it didn't make sense. You are not behind. You are right on schedule. God is not late. God is intentional. The shock will come because you stopped expecting it. That is often how God moves. When you release the pressure to force outcomes, God steps in with effortless authority. When you let go of desperation, alignment appears. When you stop striving, favor finds you. This is not because effort is wrong, but because trust activates what effort cannot. This Christmas, God is restoring dignity. God is restoring voice. God is restoring momentum. The season of being underestimated is ending. The season of being hidden is concluding. The season of preparation is giving way to manifestation. What you have carried in your spirit is about to be seen in your life. And when it unfolds, it will bring clarity to your past pain. You will finally understand why it had to be that way. Do not fear the size of what God is about to do. Expansion can feel uncomfortable to those accustomed to limitation, but growth always stretches. Elevation always requires adjustment. You will have to let go of old mindsets, old fears, old identities that no longer fit. God is not just changing your circumstances, God is upgrading your perception. You cannot step into new territory with old thinking. Some people will not understand your transformation. They knew you when you were struggling. They grew comfortable with your limitations. But do not shrink to make others comfortable. Obedience sometimes looks like confidence. Others misinterpret as pride. But humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is agreeing with what God says about you. This surprise is not just for you, it is through you. God blesses chosen ones so that others can see what faith produces. Your breakthrough will speak. Your restoration will preach. Your peace will testify. Without words, your life will declare that God is faithful. Even now, God is rearranging things behind the scenes. Conversations you are not part of, decisions you did not initiate, movements you cannot see. Heaven is active, and what God sets in motion cannot be reversed by human opinion or circumstance. When God opens a door, no resistance can close it. When God decides to elevate, no past can disqualify. Do not rush the moment. Stay grounded. Stay thankful. Gratitude keeps you aligned. Expectancy keeps you alert. Faith keeps you ready. And humility keeps you steady. You do not need to announce what God is doing. Let the fruit speak when it appears. This Christmas will not be remembered for what you gave or received, but but for what shifted within you and around you. The shock will be quiet but undeniable. You will look back and realize this was the moment everything changed. The moment God confirmed what was spoken over you long ago. The moment preparation met promise. The moment faith met fulfillment. The moment God surprised you in ways only God can orchestrate. What you are experiencing right now is not confusion. It is convergence. It feels intense because multiple seasons are colliding at once. The past is loosening its grip. The present is being stretched, and the future is pressing closer than you expected. This tension is not meant to crush you. It is meant to align you. God often brings pressure right before precision. When things feel uncertain, it is usually because certainty is about to be redefined by divine instruction rather than human expectation. There are moments when God removes clarity so dependence can deepen. You were never meant to navigate destiny by sight alone. Vision matures when trust replaces control. Some of you tried to plan your way into peace. But peace does not come from knowing every step. It comes from knowing who leads the steps. God is not asking you to figure everything out. God is asking you to stay yielded while the path unfolds beneath your feet. Understand this. Chosen ones are not chosen because they are flawless, but because they are responsive. God looks for hearts that adjust when corrected, spirits that soften when instructed, and minds that remain teachable even after disappointment. Pride resists redirection, but humility attracts revelation. That is why God sometimes allows you to be wrong, not to shame you, but to shape you. Correction is not rejection, it is refinement. This Christmas season carries an unusual weight of alignment, not emotional excitement, not surface-level optimism, but deep internal recalibration. God is recalibrating desires. Some things you once wanted no longer satisfy you. Some pursuits that once energized you now feel empty. That is not loss, that is discernment awakening. God is cleansing your appetite so you will not settle for what distracts you from what fulfills. You must recognize when God is closing chapters, not because you failed, but because you finished. Completion often feels like loss when you are attached to what once sustained you, but you cannot carry old chapters into new volumes. God is intentional about transitions. Every ending under God's authority is actually an invitation into greater clarity. There are people who were only assigned to a season, not a lifetime. There are environments that nurtured growth but cannot host expansion. When God removes you, it is not to isolate you. It is to reposition you. Elevation requires different surroundings, different conversations, different expectations. You cannot become who God has revealed while remaining where God has already moved you from. This surprise you are approaching will test your ability to receive. Many people pray for increase but are unprepared for responsibility. God does not just give gifts, God entrusts assignments. What is coming will require discipline, wisdom, and restraint. You will need to guard your spirit carefully. Not everyone who celebrates your rise will understand your calling. Learn the difference between applause and alignment. God is sharpening your discernment because where you are going, not every voice deserves access. Sensitivity to God's guidance will matter more than public opinion. The louder the environment, the more crucial it becomes to hear the quiet direction within. God often speaks with clarity, not chaos. When peace accompanies a decision, alignment is usually present. You are stepping into a season where inner authority must match external opportunity. God will not elevate you beyond your capacity to govern yourself. Self-mastery precedes public influence. That is why this past season focused so heavily on discipline, boundaries, and patience. You were being trained to carry weight without becoming arrogant, to lead without losing compassion, to prosper without forgetting dependence on God. This Christmas shift is not emotional, it is structural. God is restructuring how you think, how you choose, how you respond. Reactions are being replaced with responses. Impulses are being replaced with intention. Fear-based decisions are being replaced with faith-based movement. You are not becoming colder, you are becoming clearer. Some of you will be shocked by how effortlessly certain things fall into place. That ease does not diminish the struggle you endured, it validates it. When God finally releases flow, it is because resistance has accomplished its purpose. What once required force will now respond to obedience. What once felt heavy will now feel natural. You must guard against guilt when blessing arrives. Some of you were conditioned to feel undeserving because you struggled for so long. But blessing is not payment for perfection, it is the outcome of alignment. God is not rewarding your flaws or your strengths. God is honoring your surrender. Receive without apology, steward without fear, walk forward without shrinking. There will be moments when you are tempted to explain yourself. Resist that urge. When God elevates, explanation becomes unnecessary. Consistency will speak louder than justification. Fruit will silence doubt. Time will clarify truth. Let your life become the evidence rather than your words. This season will also require forgiveness, not because others deserve it, but because you cannot carry old bitterness into new territory. Unresolved resentment becomes weight, and weight slows momentum. Release does not mean reconciliation, it means freedom. God cannot fill hands that insist on holding what was meant to be released. Expect acceleration, but remain grounded. Expect favor, but remain disciplined. Expect visibility, but remain humble. Balance will be essential. God promotes steadily when the foundation is secure. Do not rush what God is establishing permanently. Temporary speed can sabotage lasting impact. What is unfolding is larger than your comfort. It is connected to purpose. God is positioning you to become an answer to prayers you did not pray, a solution to needs you have not yet encountered, a witness to possibilities others thought unreachable. Your obedience will open doors for others who are watching silently. Stay present, stay sensitive, stay faithful. The shock will not come as chaos, but as clarity. The surprise will not overwhelm, it will confirm. And when you look back, you will see that every delay, every silence, every closed door was not absence. It was orchestration by God, moving with exactness, intention, and authority beyond human comprehension. There is a deeper work happening now that many will not notice, because God often works beneath the surface before anything becomes visible above it. Roots are growing where eyes cannot see. Stability is being formed where applause is absent. God is strengthening what will soon need to stand under pressure. Do not mistake silence for inactivity. When God is quiet, it is because instruction has already been given and trust is being tested. Silence is not abandonment, it is confidence from God that you are ready to walk without constant reassurance. You are being trained to move by conviction rather than confirmation. In earlier seasons, God confirmed every step because insecurity required constant validation. But now, maturity is emerging. God is teaching you to recognize alignment without needing signs for every decision. Discernment is sharpening. Your spirit is learning to recognize truth even when emotions fluctuate. This is essential because where God is taking you, hesitation will cost opportunity. There is also a shift happening in how you perceive opposition. What once intimidated you no longer holds the same power. You have realized that resistance does not mean denial. Often resistance is evidence that you are approaching something significant. If the enemy cannot stop you, it will try to distract you, delay you, or exhaust you. But exhaustion only prevails when purpose is forgotten. Reconnect with why God brought you this far, and strength will rise again. God is also healing how you relate to time. You are no longer obsessed with speed, but with accuracy. You are learning that arriving early can be as damaging as arriving late. Timing matters. God's timing protects outcomes. Some of the pain you avoided was not because you were lucky, but because God delayed what you wanted until wisdom caught up with desire. Now, patience has become power rather than frustration. This Christmas season is awakening boldness that was dormant. Not loud boldness, not reckless confidence, but quiet authority. You are becoming comfortable standing alone if necessary. You are no longer negotiating your values to maintain acceptance. That shift is critical. God entrusts influence to those who do not bend under pressure. When conviction becomes non-negotiable, credibility follows. There will be moments when opportunities come that look good but are not God. Discernment will save you from good distractions that pull you away from great assignments. Just because a door is open does not mean God opened it. Peace, not pressure, is your confirmation. When God is leading, there is clarity even when the path is challenging. When God is not involved, there is confusion even when the offer looks appealing. God is also preparing you to handle misunderstanding without defensiveness. Chosen ones are often misinterpreted before they are understood. People judge based on limited information, but God judges based on intention. You do not need to correct every assumption. Truth does not need constant defense. It reveals itself over time. Focus on obedience, not reputation. Another shift is happening in your relationship with provision. Scarcity thinking is being dismantled. You are learning that God is not limited by visible resources. God creates supply where none appears to exist. When alignment is present, provision follows. Not always immediately, but inevitably. God funds what God initiates. You do not need to manipulate outcomes to feel secure. Trust is becoming your foundation. You may notice that certain conversations no longer interest you. Gossip feels heavy. Complaints feel draining. Drama feels unnecessary. This is not superiority, it is sensitivity. Your spirit is protecting its environment. God is teaching you that what you tolerate influences what you attract. Peace is not passive. It is protected intentionally. There is also a refinement happening in your prayer life. You are no longer asking for everything. You are asking for what aligns. Your prayers are becoming more precise, more intentional, more surrendered. You are learning to say, God, not my preference, but your purpose. That kind of prayer moves heaven because it releases control. This season will test your consistency more than your intensity. Anyone can be passionate for a moment, but stability is built through daily faithfulness. God values what you do when no one is watching more than what you do when everyone applauds. Character is revealed in routine. That is why God often blesses those who remain steady when excitement fades. You are also being taught to celebrate others without comparison. Envy is losing its grip. You understand now that someone else's success does not delay yours. God's supply is not competitive. What God has for you is reserved. Comparison only distracts from preparation. Focus sharpens destiny. As the surprise approaches, humility will be your greatest safeguard. Success tests character more than struggle ever did. Remain teachable, remain grateful. Remember the moments when faith was all you had. Gratitude keeps your heart aligned with God's presence rather than God's provision. There will be moments when fear tries to return, reminding you of past failures. But fear only speaks the language of history, while God speaks the language of destiny. You are not who you were when you failed. Growth has occurred. Wisdom has been gained. Strength has been built. Do not let old versions of yourself disqualify the present work God is doing. God is also awakening courage to confront what you once avoided. Difficult conversations, necessary boundaries, hard decisions, avoidance delays growth. Confrontation, when done with wisdom, brings freedom. God is equipping you to lead your own life with clarity rather than react to circumstances. This Christmas shift is about authority, not excitement. Authority that comes from alignment. Authority that comes from obedience. Authority that comes from knowing who you are accountable to. When God establishes authority, insecurity loses its voice. You are stepping into a season where your inner life must remain prioritized. Public success without private grounding leads to collapse. God is reminding you that intimacy sustains influence. Stay connected, stay listening, stay responsive. What is ahead will require courage, restraint, discernment, and unwavering trust. But you are not unprepared. Every season you endured contributed to your readiness. Every delay developed discernment. Every disappointment refined dependence. Nothing was wasted. As you move forward, let expectation rise without anxiety. Let faith stand without forcing outcomes. Let obedience lead without needing guarantees. God has already gone ahead of you. The path is prepared. The moment is appointed. The surprise is set. And what God has ordained will unfold with precision, power, and purpose far beyond what the natural mind could anticipate. There is another layer to this moment that must be understood, because God is not only changing what happens around you, God is changing how you carry what happens to you. Strength is being redefined. You once thought strength meant enduring silently, absorbing pressure, surviving without complaint. But God is teaching you that true strength is alignment. Strength is knowing when to stand firm and when to let go. Strength is obedience even when pride wants control. Strength is trusting God's authority over your own understanding. You are entering a season where emotional maturity will matter as much as spiritual insight. God is teaching you to respond rather than react, to pause rather than panic, to listen rather than assume. Quick reactions once protected you in survival seasons, but now they will limit you. Where God is taking you, wisdom must lead emotion, not the other way around. Calmness is becoming a sign of confidence rather than weakness. There is also a refining leaning in how you define success. God is dismantling shallow measures and replacing them with eternal ones. Success is no longer just achievement, it is alignment. It is peace without compromise. It is progress without regret. It is movement without losing yourself. God is showing you that gaining everything externally while losing clarity internally is not advancement, it is distraction. This shift will require you to trust God even when outcomes differ from expectations. Sometimes God answers prayers differently than imagined, not because the prayer was wrong, but because the vision was limited. God sees the full picture. God understands connections you cannot trace. When an answer looks unfamiliar, pause before resisting. What feels like deviation may actually be elevation in disguise. You will notice that your tolerance for chaos is decreasing. Loud environments exhaust you. Disordered thinking drains you. God is heightening your sensitivity because clarity thrives in stillness. The quieter your inner world becomes, the clearer God's guidance will feel. Protect that stillness. Do not allow unnecessary noise to disrupt what God is cultivating within you. There will be moments when obedience feels lonely. Alignment often separates before it connects. But solitude with God is never isolation, it is preparation. In those quiet moments, perspective sharpens, motivation realigns, fear dissolves. Do not rush out of spaces God designed to strengthen you. What feels empty may be filling you in ways you will later recognize. God is also reshaping how you handle authority, both receiving it and exercising it. You are learning that authority does not need dominance to be effective. True authority carries calm confidence. It does not demand recognition, it commands respect through consistency. God is forming you into someone whose presence stabilizes environments rather than disrupts them. There is a warning within this blessing. Do not confuse momentum with mastery. When things begin to move quickly, remain anchored. Do not abandon the disciplines that sustained you in waiting: prayer, reflection, integrity, restraint. These are not tools for hard seasons only. They are foundations for fruitful ones. Momentum without grounding leads to burnout. God wants endurance, not just excitement. This season will reveal who is assigned to your future and who was only part of your past. Release does not always require explanation. Some relationships end quietly because their purpose has been fulfilled. Holding on out of nostalgia can delay what God is introducing. Trust God's pruning. Growth requires space. You may be surprised by how little validation you need now. Where approval once mattered deeply, now alignment satisfies. That is growth. When God becomes your reference point, opinions lose their power. You are no longer driven by external affirmation, but anchored in internal conviction. This freedom is essential for where you are going. God is also teaching you to steward joy responsibly. Joy is not denial of reality. It is confidence in God's sovereignty. Even in uncertainty, joy can exist because trust has matured. Do not feel guilty for moments of happiness. Joy strengthens you for responsibility. It reminds you that God is present, not distant. As the surprise unfolds, remember this: God's blessings often arrive with instruction attached. Listen carefully, stay attentive. Obedience will keep the door open. Partial obedience creates partial results. God honors those who follow fully, not conveniently. There will be moments when your past tries to resurface. Memories, regrets, old labels. Do not engage them. What God forgave is not yours to revisit. Growth means refusing to live in places God has already redeemed. Look forward, stay present. Trust the direction God is guiding you. You are not stepping into chaos. You are stepping into order. Divine order, purposeful order. Order that aligns every detail in ways you could never orchestrate alone. God is intentional. God is precise. God is faithful. As this season continues to unfold, let your posture remain surrendered. Not passive, but trusting. Not hesitant, but responsive. Not fearful, but grounded. God is not surprising you to confuse you. God is surprising you to confirm that faith was not misplaced. Everything you endured has led here. Every unanswered question refined discernment. Every closed door redirected focus. Every delay protected purpose. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not overlooked. God is present. God is active. God is intentional. And what is unfolding will carry a depth, stability, and authority that proves beyond doubt that this moment was not manufactured by human effort, but orchestrated by God alone. Now stand still for a moment and recognize where you are, not emotionally, not circumstantially, but spiritually. You are standing at the edge of fulfillment, where preparation meets promise and faith meets confirmation. This is not hype. And this is not imagination. This is the quiet confidence that comes when God has finished one phase and is ushering you into another. What you sense is not uncertainty, it is anticipation. Heaven is not rushing, and heaven is not hesitating. Heaven is exact. Let this truth settle deeply. God does not bring you this far to abandon you at the threshold. The same God who sustained you in silence will establish you in visibility. The same God who strengthened you in obscurity will steady you in influence. Nothing ahead will require a version of you that God has not already shaped. You are equipped for what is coming because God never assigns without supplying wisdom, endurance, and clarity. Thank you. As this season turns, keep your heart anchored. Guard your spirit, stay aligned. Let gratitude remain louder than fear, and trust remain stronger than memory. Do not look back to measure progress. Look forward with assurance. What God has prepared will not need force, manipulation, or fear to arrive. It will come with authority, peace, and unmistakable alignment. Carry this understanding with you. You were chosen not for spectacle, but for stewardship. Not for noise, but for impact. Not for momentary excitement, but for lasting transformation. The surprise awaiting you is not meant to overwhelm you. It is meant to affirm that obedience was worth it, that patience was purposeful, and that faith was rightly placed. Remain steady, remain humble, remain responsive. God is faithful beyond explanation, precise beyond prediction, and intentional beyond understanding. And what unfolds next will not only change circumstances, it will confirm identity, establish purpose, and reveal that every step, every pause, every challenge was guided by God with perfect wisdom and unwavering authority.